to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll start off if there's any public comments on any non-agenda items that anyone wishes to speak on. Okay, then we will move on to the CAST funding request. We have Kathy Delroto here from CAST along with David Austin. It's on the board, I believe. And last year when we were, I think in budget season, we were talking about ARPA funds. Jerry, supervisor at the time, had suggested that we could possibly use some of the ARPA money for funding for a CAST request. So that precipitated a follow-up by David and Kathy today. So we still are looking into using of the monies, but I thought this was a good opportunity for you to at least educate the board on what you do, as well as the public, because you do take private donations as well. So it'll be on channel 22 on town and on YouTube. So depending on whether or not the town can do anything with our funding, at least you also have the public venue.
How much funding do we have that we're looking at?
That I have to still go through. We have like 235,000. We've got different projects specified, but then there were some things that that we thought we could use the ARPA money for that doesn't quite qualify, like the facilities master plan needs assessment. But then there's some other things that were in the budget that could possibly be used for the ARPA money, and then that would free up those funds. And then we've got some a bid that came in for the Red Cross ambulance barn extension that's a cost overrun. It's going to be a cost overrun, so I need to find funds there. So I need to put all the pieces together before I know whether or not we have additional money. And then there's some requirements before we can give to not-for-profits, which actually, since we're on it, we'll just briefly go over it. You'd have to be an impacted not-for-profit in order for us to use the town ARPA money. So it's like decreased revenues, increased cost, financial insecurity of the organization due to the pandemic. So depending on how far along we get with figuring out if there's available funds, then I would come back to you to go over whether or not you have those qualifications. So, but we won't make you do any of that legwork until we know we have money that we can actually use. So.
Sorry I asked.
Good afternoon, Madam Supervisor and members of the board. I am Kathy Delroto. I'm the Director of CAST. Happy to have David Austin here, who's one of our board members. And thank you for considering CAST as a recipient of a possible ARPA grant. We did receive some ARPA funds through the town of Southold. So we did qualify based on the federal guidelines, and they were very helpful.
Okay, that's good to know. So if they've done it, then you're a little bit pre-qualified on it. So that will make an easier conversation.
So I think this is the first time I've been in this building, and I think it's the first time CAST is presented to the town board as far as I know. So we're honored to be here, and I'll give you a little bit background about CAST and the work we're doing on Shelter Island. So CAST has been around since 1965. We were founded in response to Lyndon Johnson's war on poverty by some community and faith-based members and groups in a garage in Greenport back in 1965. And we've grown and morphed over the years, and we're now, and thanks to the generosity of the community and some government grants, have a permanent home since 2021 in the heart of Southold town. I invite you to come see what we're doing there. We're really an amazing community resource center serving now about 1,500 families, about 3,700 people. So that's about 15% of the population of Southold town, about 25% of the children that live there. Again, our mission is to provide a safety net and promote self-sufficiency for North Fork, and we changed our mission to add Shelter Island residents in need. We started serving Shelter Island in March of 2022, and that was based on several meetings and conversations with stakeholders here, including Mary Carnavogel was instrumental, the school, the senior centers, just other groups on the island, and people felt there was a need for us to come and provide programming and services. Our vision is to build a thriving community where every member is free from worry about basic necessities and able to build a better future for themselves and their families. So CAST has 3 priorities. The first is food security and nutrition. And basically, we are not just a typical food pantry. So we have adopted a food for health initiative. So we want to ensure not only are we providing the food to reduce hunger and food insecurity, but we're providing a nutritious diet and nutrition education. So everybody gets meat and or fish, fresh produce, eggs, dairy, yogurt, cheese, butter, as well as dry goods. In addition, we provide things like diapers and shampoo and razors and all sorts of personal care items as well. And obviously, food insecurity leads to poor health outcomes, and we, try to educate people on chronic conditions and prevent them. But if people are struggling with chronic conditions, hypertension, diabetes, we want to make sure they're getting the foods they need in their diet. And so all clients are able to fill out a voluntary survey to share with us any health concerns or needs they have, so we can ensure when we're providing food that, whether it's in Southold, on Shelter Island, or through our mobile pantry, that we're providing all the nutrition that they need for food security as well as for good health. We also have a partnership with the Stony Brook Eastern Long Island and the Northwell Health Food as Medicine program. So people who live in our service area on Shelter Island or in the town of Southold are being discharged and they're screened for food insecurity, they'll be referred to us with a social worker providing us the information on dietary needs. So our second priority is client support services and advocacy. So we have 4 bilingual staff who do case management. So we do things like benefit application assistance for things like disability or energy assistance. They do emergency assistance applications. So if somebody is sick or lost a job and they need help paying a month's rent or an oil bill or a medical bill, they can come to us and get a grant. People only are allowed a grant 1 time a year. Occasionally, in my 7 years there, we've given people 2 if it's been. We had a gentleman who was single and had cancer and was out of work for a long time, so we did pay 2 months' rent. But usually it's a one-time grant because we have so many people serving and limited funds. So in addition to that client support, benefit application assistance and emergency assistance, we do just all sorts of case management and advocacy, but I'll get more into that. And then our third is education and outreach, our third priority. So we provide a whole range of education programs from early childhood to school-age tutoring to adult education, including workforce development initiatives. So we did start in 2022 serving Shelter Island with our mobile food pantry and resource center. So the island has been so welcoming, and we're now in the Cobbitts Lane Fire Department, where they're on Mondays from 3 to about 6:30 every other week. And we come with staff, food relief staff, as well as our bilingual client support staff. So case management is happening there. Applications are being filled out. We do workforce connections, so if people are looking for work, we have employers who post jobs with us. So not only are we bringing food and personal care items, we're also helping with case management and providing information on all the educational opportunities that we offer.
Kathy, excuse me, when did you say you were at Cobbitts Lake?
I'm sorry,
Were you?
Monday afternoons from
The
3 to
afternoon.
6. Yeah. And I have to schedule the dates if we want. So since we've been here since March 2022, our active client list is 92 families comprised of 237 individuals. And you can see on the next slide, it's broken down by age. So children 0 to 17 are 67, seniors over 62 are 19, age 50 to 62 are 24, and adults 18 to 49 are 125. In 24 alone, we've welcomed 8 new families of 16 individuals. And we also serve 17 families comprising of 39 individuals who live in Southold Town but work on Shelter Island. So they're here working and they can't get to us by the time they get off of work, so we serve them here. And then the next slide is more on our food security program. So again, we're serving, we've served since we started 33,359 meals in 2 years. And those, again, meat, eggs, dairy, and fresh produce. We also deliver to 3 families who can't get to the Cobbitts Lane site. So we deliver to their homes with the van. And on the next slide is our more about our Food for Health initiative. We partner with Cornell Cooperative Extension, Malloy University, Allied Health to make sure we're providing appropriate nutrition education. They give us some diapers, and they also do workshops for us and health screenings. So we've been doing those at Cast and Southold, but we have had many Shelter Island people come to those one-day health events as well. We also have special food distribution. So in addition to the coming with the food, we do Feed a Kit, which when schools are closed during summer or spring or winter break, they can sign up for extra food. So we would provide breakfast, lunch, and snacks that they would otherwise get if they were getting free and reduced price meals at school. So in 2023, we served 31 children on Shelter Island with 527 Feed a Kit meals. We also do Thanksgiving baskets, include Shelter Island in that. So in 2023, we gave Thanksgiving baskets to 34 Shelter Island families, including 95 individuals. In addition, we have a Farm to Friend program. So we partner with 26 farms on the East End to ensure our clients have access to fresh local produce, including Sylvester Manor. They have a grant where they provide CSA shares to some families on Shelter Island, so they coordinate that through us. And they also give us general donations of extra produce to go to Shelter Island families.
Do you get eggs and or meat from them as well?
We're hoping this year to get some pork and eggs, but not regularly. It's usually just produce, but we had a meeting with them about a month ago, and they're going to try to give us some pork and eggs this year. Occasionally we've gotten it, but it hasn't been a regular thing, so we're hoping to make it more regular because those things are super expensive. So if we can get some of that, it would be helpful. So individual case management, I talked to you about. We've served 40 Shelter Island families comprised of 105 individuals with case management services. And then we have a sharing room and furniture connection program. And the sharing room is physically in Southold. So we've had 29 Shelter Island residents come to Southold and access our sharing room, which is clothes and household items, small appliances. But we also have brought with us the Cobbitts Lane coats and clothes and shoes for people, just in case they can't get to us. And then we do special drives. So that's coat drive, formal dress drive for proms and quinceañeras, holiday toy drive, school supply drive. So last year we served 15 Shelter Island children with school supplies and 25 children with holiday toys. And then getting to our education, we also, I'm sorry, it's not in there, but we do a workforce connection program. So different employers post jobs with us, and then we connect clients. And so we help clients do mock interviews, we help them fill out applications, write a resume. And so I know we've helped a few Shelter Island people with that. So that's another service that we provide. But we do that in Southold, so they come to Southold. Education, we have the North Fork Parent Child Plus program. That's an early literacy and parent support program for at-risk children, 18 months to 4 years. So I know there's limited preschool opportunities, and if you have no transportation, you don't have any opportunities. So this is a program where our teachers go into the home and work one-on-one with the child and a parent or guardian. And it's a national program, research based and super successful. So graduates have a 30% higher graduation rate than their peers, and 50% are less likely to need special education services if they've gone through this Parent-Child Plus program. So in 2023, we served 2 Shelter Island families. So our teachers came over here and worked for a whole year with the child, and then we served serving one child in 2024. We also do all sorts of programming that Shelter Island people come over to CAST for. We do computer classes, we do ESL classes, we do school-age tutoring. But one program in particular is the North Fork Culinary Program, which is a 12-week workforce development program, working with local chefs. The students learn culinary skills, but it's also a professionalism, work readiness program. So we teach about, we do again mock interviews, we do resume writing, professionalism in the workplace seminars, and all the students take the Suffolk County Food Manager's exam as well. So we graduated 1 Shelter Island student in 2023 and 1 in 2024. And then I talked about English as a second language program. Shelter Island folks were coming over on the ferry to take it, the class in Greenport or Southold. And so we decided this year to launch one in partnership with the school, and Mary was very instrumental in that. So we had 34 students participate and 13 earned a certificate of completion, so attended most of the classes. And we will have another one in the fall as well. It's very much English for the workplace, so we're teaching them language workplace. I think that's pretty much the programming we're doing. We overall CAST served over 412,000 meals last year. We expect to do 430,000 meals. We're serving total, like I said, just about 1,500 families. So the need is great. It continues to grow. Even like our first few months here, we were serving 9 families, and now we're at 92. So I think, we went from COVID to 40-year high inflation to an affordable housing crisis, and we all know the cost of living is quite high out here. So people are struggling to make ends meet, and I often say, but for the services of CAST, many people would not be able to live and work in our communities. So I feel like we provide really critical, essential programs and services that really make a difference in the community. And we are often filling gaps that government can't fill because of limited staff and resources. And so I like to see, I look at us as partners with government, right, to build a thriving community. And we're honored to be here and working on Shelter Island and serving our community. Anybody have any questions?
And we mentioned your relationship with Sylvester Manor. How are you being supported by other businesses in this community?
We do get some private donations, and we have, I think, now 11 volunteers that come over, either volunteer when we're here on the island at Cottage Lane or come over to CAST. So plus I'm remiss in saying the Lions Club has been super supportive of CAST and gives us a generous donation, or has the last 2 years since we've been here. And then Binder Pools will sponsor our annual Blast for CAST or our Festival of Trees. So there's different businesses that support us in other ways.
Are you tied in with our social worker? I was thinking about that when the food insecurity.
So the previous social worker we had came and did a tour of our facility, and we met and started working together, but then I understand she left and we haven't met the new social worker, but I would love to meet that and see, have that opportunity. Yeah. So anything, the town has the ARPA funds available, we would certainly appreciate it because it does cost us about $90,000 a year to serve Shelter Island with what we do. And we're, other than the donation from the Lions Club, and then there's a group of people that have come together called the Shelter Island Friends of Cast. There's 7 people, most are in the Lions Club, do a fundraiser for us every summer at somebody's house, a cocktail reception, and that raises about $10,000 to $11,000 for us every year, which is helpful. But the other, otherwise it's coming out of just our general operations to be able to come over to Shelter Island. So love the support if it's in the coffers.
No, and we appreciate all of the work you do. I was fortunate enough to sit next to Kathy at the last Lions dinner, and she is doing amazing work, and you've been so instrumental in expanding what CAST does and the support at Shelter Island, so thank you.
And the other thing we have, which we have an arts and culture program, which we started 2 years ago with a grant from the New York State Council on the Arts. So we welcome Shelter Island residents, and many do come to our at least 1 or 2 free events a month. We just had the Yale Whiffenpoofs last weekend. We're having the Harlem Chamber Players June 1st. We're having a Mexican dance group from New York City come out on May 18th. We have a small film festival in the middle of June. So we have some really interesting, cool. I want to invite everybody to our open house June 2nd. It's from 1 to 3 p.m. and we're going to have actually a world-renowned classical pianist, Eleanor Bindman, performing that day, as well as Julia King will be performing. We have Rob Brewery performing, just different musicians. Will have some food, and you can tour the facility and learn what we're doing, meet the staff, and just have a nice time. So I invite you all to come to that on June 2nd.
Sounds great, thank you.
Thank you for all that you do.
Yes, and I will be in touch once I
Okay.
do some number crunching and then
Great.
come back to the board and discuss
Great.
allocation funds.
All right, well, I appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you for all you do, Kathy, really. Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Tremendous amount of work. The next item on our agenda is the filming permit application by BAM Productions for 52 Peconic Avenue. We have a representative on.
Hello, hi. Not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can,
Yes.
thank you.
Oh, I terrifyingly can see myself on the screen.
Yeah, so this is an application that we received, I guess, May 1st, for filming that's to take place May 13th and 14th at 52 Peconic Avenue. I guess we did get the times 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. I didn't get a chance to double check if that's within our.
It is.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's what I said, that was allowed.
And then Christina, do you have, or I can pull up the site location? So the shooting location is 52 Peconic, and you're going to have, looks like 3 vehicles parked there. And then there's an additional, the homeowner owns also 31 Peconic Avenue, which another 4 vehicles parked there. So it appears that there'd be no on-the-road parking. Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so other than just double checking the time and where exactly the vehicles would be, does anyone else have any questions? We have this slated to do a special meeting, just because we didn't have a chance to get this onto the agenda last week. It was too tight. So we do have it slated to be approved because of the deadline, filming in the 13th and 14th.
Yeah, this is a site that's been used before for this purpose. And they seem to have managed it well in the past, and the fact that none of the vehicles are gonna be on the road, they're all gonna be on private property, I think it's okay.
Yeah, and something that we also do from you as a new board member is we do track how many filming permits are given to a particular location on Delta Island, just in deference, keeping track for the neighbors to make sure that you're allowed 3 before it starts, we start to question, the inconvenience to the neighborhood versus.
Natasha, did you confirm if you're filming on 13th and the 14th, or were you just doing the one day?
Yeah, it's actually just one day. It's just the
Okay.
14th, but we will have some crew coming out on the 13th and likely to spend the night in the town, as well as some crew would stay in Greenport. But we're trying to get whoever we can in at the pardon me if I'm not saying that correctly, but yeah. But we are only shooting the 14th, and then we'll head out that same day.
Okay, I'll follow up with you after the meeting about the fees, because that will change.
Okay. Thank you.
So if there aren't any other questions, are there any questions from the Zoom audience? If we don't have anyone left in the physical audience?
They're gonna pay a rush fee?
Would have to.
Yes, because it was less than 14 days. All right.
So it changes the one day, changes the rest fee, no.
Yes, exactly. All right, so if this is okay, we'll go ahead with the special meeting and.
I'm okay.
All right, good. Okay. So Natasha, if you want to wait around for another hour to hear the resolution, or Amber will notify you. But-
Okay. I'm gonna I'm gonna hope it goes well. But I
Yeah.
did really actually enjoy listening to the one
Yes.
that you came before. I thought that was very interesting. So
Good. All right, thank you.
How much is the rush fee?
It's double the permit fee. Yes. Yes. Okay. All right, so that's that agenda item. The next one, because we had to rush and kind of put this into a special meeting today, it got me looking at why was it so tight? It's like they submitted it like a day after.
It's not STEM, it's every single
Yeah,
application.
it does seem that way every summer. So the next topic is discussing amending filming permit applications from 14 days to 30 days, so that we can properly schedule review at a work session and then a subsequent town board meeting without having to do a special.
Yeah.
So,
I'm in favor of that.
Yes, it only makes sense.
yeah, within our chapter 65-5 permits, it says the application must be filed at least 14 days in advance of the earliest date for which the permit is applied for. If the application is not timely filed, the applicant shall pay a rush fee in an amount specified by the town board resolution. And what do I do with all the fees? So yeah, we have various fees, major, minor, mega filming, and then the rush fee is double the application fee. And we also, looks like,
There's a deposit fee if it's on town property.
yeah, and there's also, we have, if it's April through October, one fee versus peak fees, yeah, so peak season, higher fees. So we can circulate that, but I don't think we've changed these fees in a while. It's just something to review, but I would like to just have us make that one section change.
Yeah, that's fine. That'll be easy. But again, it's not gonna offend because we have the safety valve of the rush fee, but it'll just now capture more people having to pay double.
Yeah.
It's 30.
Yes.
Hopefully people
Which
will
is not-
plan ahead.
Yeah, which is not the point, that's the financial incentive for them to plan ahead.
And it's also, but again, how do we educate the people that do this? Because I'm sure they're not really aware if they just say, hey, we want to shoot on Shelter Island.
But
They
there are
all-
the same production companies, like this particular residence has done numerous film permits in the past. So that's one safety valve, is that they become aware of it. I mean, they're not paying it, but BAM Productions has done multiple shoots on Shelter Island. When I did a search in my emails over the years, they have. Maybe we need to make it higher if we want to try and get them, if it's not working.
Also, I can't imagine other towns have 14-day. I mean, it must, that's a really short time frame. So probably most towns are 30 days anyway.
Yeah, no. I'm not suggesting that you don't do it, but I'm just saying, a lot of times logistically, they can or don't know, and then they'll just have to pay the rush fee.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But it just is, I feel like 30 days is a courtesy to the surrounding homeowners, that like, they have a better chance. This just came to us in the last week and it's next week. Like, this one's minor because it's fewer people and everything's going to be parked on property.
Right.
But
There's also less chance that we miss the application and, it ends up,
Mhm.
we have enough time to handle it correctly. If it comes in right after a work session or right after a board meeting, it throws the whole thing off.
Okay, but I guess we can proceed with that. We can set the public hearing at the next work session.
Next town board meeting?
Next town board meeting, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so June 3rd, public hearing, June 24th. Next item that was on the agenda that has been taken off the agenda was the fertilizer local law. But the public hearing is still open for written correspondence until May 17th. I had said we would discuss it at the May 21st work session, but then when I went to go put that on the calendar, realized there is no May 21st work session because the Board of Assessment Review is in here all day, hearing grievances, assessments. So we don't have a town board work session, so it'll be May 28th that we will discuss.
Actually, we have a Wednesday meeting there.
Oh, because of the holiday. Thank you. I think you need to fix it on the agenda, so I started creating that.
No, I did create that one.
All right, so just to let everybody know that that's the timeline for the fertilizer local law. Next item is the town dock parking local law. It was closed yesterday. We had no one speak to it. So I'm thinking we can proceed.
Absolutely.
Fine with me.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we can adopt. June 3rd. Okay, we just run through this. Okay. The next item is the pyramid law, and we close that public hearing. This is all part of what we were trying to accomplish with the moratorium on large homes. The only written comment that I had gotten an email from somebody prior to, I should have brought it up yesterday, was under the sky plane section.
You can't.
Oh,
Well, I guess you received it prior to.
did receive it prior to. Yeah, but it raised a question for me. So just in rereading the sky plane, like the way it says districts B, B1, or C, like, except for B and B1 and C, I think it should be in and instead of an or. So it's really just one word change. So it's 133-1.
Yeah, so we wouldn't have to renotice it.
Yeah, I mean, it's minor, but I understood the comment.
Okay.
And our intention from when we discussed it at work sessions was it was to include all three of those zones.
Yes.
And again, no one came to speak on it yesterday. And part of our continuing, trying to deal with large homes is next week, we will have a draft legislation to look at for proportionality. So then we've got the transfer to ZBA and the maximum 5,999 that was adopted yesterday. We've got this teed up to be adopted, and then we will be discussing the proportionality.
Which version of the spreadsheet will that be based on? Option A, B, C, or was it option 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Are you asking about the proportionality?
Yeah.
I did option 2.
That was my favorite one.
Yeah, that was the one that I picked too. so.
Yes, I'm with you.
Okay, all right.
And then I did extrapolate it out, so I did go all the way out to like 6 acres, so.
And next week, Joe will be also just giving us some examples and visuals to, better understand the interplay between the different legislation that we've been talking about. The one thing is I forgot to make a note, when does the large home moratorium expire?
I can't remember all of these days off the top.
They'll be met by the SFLA.
But we already,
No, I'm just thinking in terms of now applications will begin going to ZBA as of what date? Like, what I'm suggesting is I don't want to lift it early, I want it to expire on that day, which hopefully gives ZBA a little bit of time to get ready for incoming applications. Special permit has a couple more months? Yeah.
large home moratorium.
For some reason, I thought it was in June, like June 25th or something like that.
Can't remember the day.
It's on my,
So that's the only ones.
yeah, I guess in my minutes. Yes, just so they can be charged with, if they want to look at, the application process and understand timing, things like that, because it's in addition to what they're doing. And it gives us time to finish
Makes
the
sense.
pyramid law.
June 29th.
June 29th, okay. All right, good.
Since we're solving for it, I gotta push the date out of my head.
Yes, exactly. But I'm just thinking in terms of, like, they just need to be aware of yesterday's law, pyramid law when it gets adopted, and if we can get proportionality adopted before they take over. So I didn't want to, at one point I thought we could lift moratorium early, but it doesn't give them time.
Right.
Have you had conversation with the ZBA, Chairman Diorio?
Yeah.
I have not, but liaison.
He's not.
No.
Wait, I don't know which of
I
them.
am.
Oh,
I am
you
with
two.
Meg, yeah.
Okay, then you two need to.
I have spoken with them,
Mhm.
and they do have concerns because it's gonna be, in their mind, hard to kind of rule on an application when someone's like, I have 8 acres, and why can't I have more than 6,000 SFLA when it's not gonna be like a very high density construction because of the scale and the proportionality and stuff. So this is why they're kind of hoping that we come up with better guidelines than just the cap. So that was their concern. They're like, it just doesn't give us a lot to work with.
We can work with them on something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still don't know why I need a house bigger than 6,000 square feet, but I'm open to the conversation.
Yeah, so that was their concern is that,
Mhm.
it's gonna be hard to deny some of the arguments that are gonna come down their way.
All right, so that's where that stands then. So right now, we have that teed up, the pyramid law teed up for a June 3rd adoption. Mandating IA systems upon property transfer. We have draft legislation.
Let me know when you're done.
Oh, right. Forgot, yeah. I have to make a note.
Conflict of interest.
Kick Meg out.
I only have one question, go ahead.
So what's been added is to the legislation 4310.4, 4, A and B. So any transfer on an improved residential property except A, to another entity owned exclusively by the current owner, or B, to a member of the seller's immediate family.
Yeah, so there's a list of actions that trigger the need to put in the requirement, put in an IA system. So the first one is all new residential construction with greater than 1,500 square feet of living area. Any septic system upgrade required by the Suffolk County Department of Health. Any expansion or renovation of a single-family residence, multifamily residence, or any building capable of being used as a residence that, so it's further qualified, has an existing non-conforming septic system as determined by Suffolk County Department of Health Services. It increases the SFLA by 25% or increases the number of bedrooms. So this would be an additional mandate to put IA systems in the ground, and it's upon sale of a property. So upon the sale, you would have to put in an IA system. However, if you were, so say if I owned a piece of property under my name, Stephen Kiley, and I'm the sole owner, and I want to put it into Stephen Kiley LLC, and I'm the 100% owner of Stephen Kiley LLC, I wouldn't have to put it in because it's just changing the entity that owns it, and it's not changing the seller. And then to a member of the seller's immediate family, obviously, we would probably have to define what that means, immediate family. But those are the two exceptions for the transfer mandate.
Well, let's talk about 4A for just a second, because the creation of the exemption was to try to avoid creating hardship for people that aren't really having an arm's length transaction. But if you're actually taking advantage of 4A, it feels like estate planning, and who are we protecting from hardship in an estate planning process?
No. Again, 4A, you wouldn't have to put the IA system in.
Yeah, well, then why are we protecting it?
No, it's not a state because it's exclusively by the current owner.
Okay.
So it's not a state. So like, again, the example I give you is if you, for legal protection purposes, wanted to put the property into LLC and it's still in, you still own it fully, but it's not in your name personally, it's in the LLC that you own 100% of, that would be an exception.
Yeah, okay.
So
Sure.
trust would not be.
Correct.
Trust would not be, or
Because
an LLC with more than,
one member, yeah, so it has to be exclusively owned by that owner.
Do we put a need for a deed covenant, deed restriction on these? So that we ensure that they are installed?
No, it would just be, none of these have deed restrictions, it's just that they have to be done, otherwise they would get ticketed or a Supreme
Or
Court.
if somebody, a timeline has to be done within 2 years? I mean, just to ensure that they're put in, that they're installed.
We could ask Reed on that, I'm not sure how they police
And
it.
if the house again is sold or whatever, it should be a deed restriction so that the potential new buyer knows that that original owner is responsible to put in the IA system.
I don't know if it's
deed
deed
restrictions
restriction.
are messy and they cost money, and it's in the code.
Yeah, so we have the enforcement power as the town as opposed to it being a private enforcement thing, being in the deed. So we would, again, charge, like the building department, I guess, is Reed available?
If not, we can bring them in next week.
Yeah.
Just because I have other questions and I don't think this is going to be our.
How do we
only
enforce?
That's what I gotta get Reed on.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Albert, your question is a good one, which is, how do we make sure this is gonna happen?
Not just enforcement, but also I think a deed restriction should be put on until
The
the,
assessors in the building department.
I'm sorry?
It's not a bad-
And, I don't know.
Just to be able to follow it, that's all. I mean, how do we follow this?
But even with the deed restriction, you're gonna need enforcement, right? So someone's gonna have to figure out that that restriction was not, that deed covenant was not followed through with. So at the end of the day, we still need enforcement.
mean, I'm thinking more in terms of a prospective buyer after the previous purchaser was obligated to put in the IA system. That when you go to purchase it, there's a deed covenant that will come to light in that transaction.
I guess all of code section 43 is covered by 4316, which is penalties for offenses.
Correct.
It would be, I guess, in the same category as any building.
Yeah, it's like, you know, construction without a building permit, it's the same.
Building construction. Although this is a little different because generally they're operating under a building permit, and so there's regular inspections. This also applies when people do
Our
stuff like
reluctance on the deed restriction, it's actually technically a blemish on the title. And it's hard, it's hard to make sure they're consistently done, and then when they have to be undone, it requires filings and new deeds and interaction with mortgage holders. And, I mean, it's a bit of a mess sometimes, but.
I just think, again, if we set up a system, like, I don't know how it's done now, because we've had this on the book with other mandates, right? So I don't know how they keep track of it, but as Amber said, once an owner sells a piece of property, the purchaser now is under the radar of the assessor, and the assessor knows that, because there's a new tax bill in the purchaser's name. And if they communicate with the building department that this transfer was made, then they will have a list of the transfer. And then they can ensure that, you know, these things are being done.
Should there be a timeline
Yeah, that was one comment, is that we don't.
established?
I don't know
have a
if,
timeline.
if we had Meg here, it would be helpful, but I don't know logistically, because I went through the process of putting an IA system in. And it's been 10 months, 11 months before, we're still having the final
3 years.
inspection.
3 years.
No, I got my application going in and it's, I know it's.
Yeah, and it's
what
sort
it
of
is.
like,
But
2 years?
3 years would be a safe bet, just because there is, I think, state and county funding that would be available to do this. So if you want to go through that application process, and hopefully in November, there will be a funding source for the county. So given time for people to pull the paperwork together, for it to get through Department of Health, through the grant process, 3 years would be a reasonable, without having someone have to come back and ask, you know, for us to get inundated with extension requests.
just said that there is an end date that somebody's obligated.
no, that makes perfect sense.
It's
It's not in the code right now, so that's
Yeah, we need
another amendment we
in
have.
that, yeah, for this in particular, yeah.
Well, I think it should apply to all of them.
Apply to
I'm
all.
gonna,
Everything in this section.
Yeah,
No, that you should have a time frame. If it's a mandated
Yeah.
IA system.
yeah, it should.
In 3 years, it has to be done, right?
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Well, I think some of the other ones have their own shelf life, because if you're doing a new residential construction, then you're not gonna get your C of O until you get your septic system.
No, I know, but it could be decades before you're gonna see, like, there's no, like, arguably, you shouldn't be occupying without a CO, but that's not reality, and people can string that along for a long time. So if you had a specific deadline that they know within 3 years, they gotta put the system in, they can.
Oh, no, I'm going through, like, you're saying apply it to all, like 1, 2, 3, and 4, the deadline, right? Or are you saying the deadline only for 4?
No, for all of them.
Right, and what I'm saying is, like, you're not gonna be able to take occupancy on new construction unless you have a system in. And the building department, through inspections, isn't going to let you move along in construction unless you put in an IA system. They'll stop you.
But that's just one.
Okay, so I'm saying it doesn't apply to one.
Well,
Well, it should apply. It's
Again-
just easy to meet it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's not needed for the other three.
Well, any septic system upgrade required, what would, we already have the CO.
But they're usually, that septic system upgrade required generally stems from renovation work or expansion work that they're doing.
Or failure.
Failure.
And if you've got.
I was gonna propose some changes to that. I didn't distribute it to everybody, I just wanted to put it on the table here for thought. Number one, in the listing, eliminate the 1,500 square foot exemption for new residential construction.
Just in case it's a tiny home?
But
Yeah.
Just in case it's
Yes.
a tiny home?
Yeah. What's the county? I don't have the county on it. Do you know if the county,
700?
no, like what they're, like, I think the county says you have to put an IA system, and I don't know if it's all new construction or if they have a similar square footage.
I thought actually that we had eliminated that a few years ago.
Well, we did ours before the county did theirs.
No, eliminate the 1,500 square foot exemption, but I guess we did.
They're all new single-family residential.
Yeah, so I was gonna say this, the county supersedes us on that, so we could actually pull that out, or
Yeah.
like just leave it, because now the county says you have to. So we said under like 1,500 and more, and then the county later, like we were ahead of the county. So I think we can just amend that then, just to be in line with the county. So what I'm trying to say is,
Yes.
we're already there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's make that in the code. Now, the other thing that I will distribute, I just scribbled it out here. Number 3, eliminate A, B, and C, and just put in any addition, basement renovation, or any addition, renovation, basement refinishing, conversions of a building use must submit to the building department a WWM-072 certification form by a New York State licensed engineer architect certifying the existing septic system is sized, functioning, meets the capacity for the proposed use, and meets the minimum standards as required by the Suffolk County Department of Health.
I need to I need to read that to understand.
Yeah, no, I'll
What
do,
is this form? Like, what does that form do?
it's a county form
Yeah.
that's submitted to them. It's an official
Wastewater app.
wastewater form. What is the system, describes what is the system, and does it, is it suitable, can it handle the septic flow of the proposed project or the house as it currently exists?
Okay.
It's more just to pick up,
Yeah, my recommendation at this point, like, because I just, based on what you originally wanted, I drafted this quickly. I think with all what's been said by the town board members, it warrants a subcommittee with the building inspector and, you know, yourself and one other town board member to really go through with what you want to propose. So we
Okay.
could,
all right,
just because he'd be better
Right.
at articulating what you're trying to achieve there and assist us in that matter.
Mhm.
it's more just to pick up deficient systems.
Okay.
Those that aren't functioning, those that aren't handling the septic flow that's being generated.
But 3 also includes like any renovations that increases the SFLA by 25%, increases the number of bedrooms in addition to ones that have an existing non-conforming septic system.
It eliminates in essence the 25%.
So any renovation at all?
Yeah.
That requires,
Any interior
that
renovation,
requires a
basement refinishing, addition, oh, this stuff, not like just those
What if you're just-
interior renovations that are large to a degree. You know, additions.
How do you determine what's large enough? Just a renovation that would require a permit?
I don't know, Ben,
Current
you
code?
know,
No,
I'd just like to move, I think we should move in that direction. We really, we know we have a nitrate problem. We know for the last 30 years we have a nitrate issue, but we really, I feel we failed to really move forward on it, in essence. And I'm just trying to find a way that we can move forward. If somebody's doing a renovation on their house, a remodel, building an addition, the installation of an IA system, if their septic system is not compliant, if it doesn't have the green stamp, if they're adding a bedroom to 4 bedrooms and they have a green stamp for 3 bedrooms, then they need to put it in an IA system, and it becomes part of the
So if they're,
construction course. And it has a license, an engineer or a licensed architect to put their seal and signature on a form that validates what they have.
so as long as you're not picking up people who are renovating 2 or 3 bathrooms in their house, but they're not adding any, they're just.
No, that's, yeah, it just, yeah, it needs further definition, yes, but that's the objective.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, we'll hear, as you said, we'll sit down with Reed. I think the building department would agree to this, because not all building applications go to the county. Some of them, the building department makes that decision. And I think if they had this decision taken from them, they wouldn't be making an arbitrary decision. I think they would welcome it.
They get kicked to the county if it's major reconstruction, then they have to go.
But
But
I have a question. If we're now forcing something to go to the county, is the county gonna pick it up? Like, or is it like, I'm just trying to think like the trigger, like if it's something that wouldn't normally go to the county, now we're telling them, oh, now you have to look at this for us. Will the county pick it up, or is it gonna land on somebody's desk and sit there because it's not part of their process?
If it doesn't go to the county, then it goes to the applicant, as incumbent upon the applicant to have the system inspected.
building inspector, so he's the gatekeeper, and he says it's.
Okay, I'm just asking the
Yeah.
question.
As far as building.
Yeah.
It would be actually, and maybe the Board of Ethics should look at this. Yes, because Meg would be crucial here, just for her knowledge.
Mhm.
Not to vote on this, but just, pick her brain about this issue.
Mhm.
Be an immense value in this area.
Is there anything more important than water quality for the long-term sustainability of Shelter Island? I look at other island communities, Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, heard me talk about it, Block Island. They mandate IA system installations. They don't offer grant programs. Rhode Island doesn't offer grant programs. They mandate that people upgrade their systems. I mean, I know it's hard. I know it's real difficult. Nobody likes mandates. But what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Are we gonna continue to do
I'm not
nothing?
disagreeing with you, I'm just,
I'm just,
my
you know,
question is, the language that's here, A, B, and C, doesn't that pick up everything?
no.
So what's
doesn't.
missing?
When Reed comes in, when we have the task
Let's-
force,
yeah, let's-
there's a lot of
let's-
holes in it that Reed,
Let's get his language and then let's take a look and see.
yeah, and
'Cause I'm curious,
make it
because-
better. I mean,
Yeah, we
Just
slowed
sort
it
of-
down last time, because I remember you originally, like, years ago, it's like all building permits. And then I went and got a list of building permits for a year and a half, and I'm like, somebody who did a basement renovation for 15,000, because all they were doing was putting some sheet rocking and carpet down. I was like, 15,000, now you gotta put a, at the time, a $30,000 IA system in. I was like, ooh, that's too far. So I'm curious to see what your wording is, because
okay,
you've obviously scaled it back to make it
all right.
a little bit not so encompassed.
I agree with you, we should be aggressively pursuing, encouraging people to put in IA systems. We just need to get this language right.
Yes, yes, exactly.
All right,
Yeah,
so we can
get
do that to
Stephen.
set,
Yeah, get that to
Stephen, okay,
Stephen, so
all
he
right.
can put it in, and then, yes, we should get
A subcommittee.
2 of us with the building department and,
I think, again, Meg should be one of them, if we can use her as a resource.
Well,
Silly
can
to
she,
think that there'd be a conflict of interest, so we just
see what the ethics
educate it back.
people say, but maybe it should be 2 of us plus Meg coming in
Yes.
advising.
As like a consultant.
yes, we should-
Yeah.
he's not allowed to vote on it.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be creating a quorum, because it doesn't have any,
I mean, the objective is to get these in the ground.
yes.
We really,
So I'm happy to work with Albert if you want, the 2 of us.
Or I can, like, assigning you guys all different step, but so it's up to you. Like, I don't want to keep pushing too much on you guys. I haven't gotten on stuff from you recently. so-
Then I have something else.
Okay, all right. okay.
Taking up space here in time, but I appreciate
No,
the
no, no,
patience.
no. I knew this was gonna be our.
I feel, the next issue, again, was septic. Let's get a proposal from the USGS. You know, a top-flight organization that's done a tremendous amount of work on Shelter Island and probably knows it better than anybody. We know we have an issue in the center. We know we've had an issue in the center for years. Let's get them to come in and characterize the conditions, scope the issue, and provide recommendations for mitigation. After that step, let's get, I just came up with two names myself. Let's speak to Lisa LaCourie of Fine Arts and Sciences. She's done a lot of work on the East End. And then there's a gentleman, Rick Whalen, Landmark Company in East Hampton. Get prices from them to handle the logistics of working with the county and getting the wells and the IA systems worked out, the installations of such in that. Meet with the health department, probably more importantly, meet with the legislators. You know, and Amber, you have a nice little with the Suffolk County with Ed Romaine.
Oh,
I
yes,
mean,
yes.
things,
Mhm.
meet with
You're going
them
straight to the top.
to fund this. I mean, there's going to be a ballot issue this November. Was it 0.0125 or something? Hopefully that passes for tax revenue to go toward 50% of it, IA septic installations. I would ask that the Capital Planning and Grants Committee work on something like this. If we could get a project scoped and have it ready to go, capital planning with all the money that potentially could be available, we could fix the center. We could help the residents in the center. We could take care of this issue. Be a massive project, a big undertaking, but I think it's doable. If it's put together and we have a plan, plans are readily fundable, largely, or you're more apt to get funding if you have a plan to put in front of people. So I don't know. I know it's a big step, but I think we got to do something. And then we can really help the people in the center that have high nitrates.
Can you put that into a memo form for us to
Sure,
review, so that way we can start to like,
sure.
I always like to break down big things into smaller pieces.
I mean, I just wanted to propose these. I think they're, you know. But
A couple of comments that I had on this was, if we're transferring to another entity owned exclusively by the current owner, so LLCs are a yes, how do we track? Like, okay, I have property, I'm putting it into an LLC in my name, and then next year, I'm gonna give my daughters or potential husbands on the LLC.
Yeah.
And also, if property is in an LLC and the LLC gets sold, it's still owned by the LLC. It's not a real property transfer. Am I correct? So you can sell the
Enforcement and
interest.
tracking is issue.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, I think we're missing something.
why not just leave it a title transfer with no conditions?
Well, listen, this was a draft. These are things that I threw out so you could chew on. That is.
Sure.
I'm just trying to pick it
Yeah.
apart.
Well, again, every deed transfer has to be sent to the assessor, right?
Yes, but an LLC, that's the
You can't
entity
sell the
that owns
interest,
it.
it's not
Yeah.
gonna be a deed transfer.
Yeah, like I've had companies that sold the LLC. I mean, not real estate transfers, that's why I'm asking the question, but businesses that were in LLCs and then the LLC got sold to somebody else, like that wouldn't get registered anywhere except on a tax return. Because then you need to know who the K1s are going to, but that's not the case over at the assessor's office. It's still owned by the same LLC. So I'm thinking, are we losing an
How do we,
opportunity?
Hugely. I mean, there's nothing,
Yeah, I mean, in perpetuity.
yeah.
can I increase your bandwidth, Stephen?
Yes.
You look into other places, what they've done that have implemented title transfers.
Yeah, and again.
See how they-
We're the first, aren't we?
Aren't we the
No,
first?
but, yes, so we'd be the first, but like, this issue comes up a lot, like as far as people, and again, when I was in private practice, I was fortunate to represent wealthier people, and they have legitimate reasons for putting their properties into an LLC. So, and again, it's still exclusively owned by them. So we'd have to, massage it, well, do we care, number one? So you may want to just forget about it. And do we care about that guy who's trying to put it in? But if you do, then we'd have to, yes, really think about all the manifestations of this and how we protect. But again, if the town board decides that that's not something you want to entertain at this point, take it out and limit it to the exception of a immediate family member.
It's going to be hard enough to define the immediate family member piece. I think we should take the other one out.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's our job, is to pick this apart. Like Paul Shepherd and I, when he was on the board, like he and I would sit in this boardroom on Tuesday mornings and we'd be like going back and forth and be like just picking stuff apart. So like he was a good mentor in the early days of my political career.
If it was a family member, if it
Mhm.
was within the family, okay, I could see supporting that, but maybe, I know Greg Toner with the WAC was gonna work on funding, programs that allow funding through the WQI fund and the logistics of how that could be handled and dispersed from different places. And if it's inherited the house and the people have a certain threshold, financial threshold of income, then maybe they get a 0% funding from the WQI grant funding or something, or a low interest loan, something to help them facilitate it, that's all. So it's not a severe burden.
But again, I thought you were limiting the grants because of the limited pool of money. Now that the money has increased,
This is like next on
you
the
should
list.
probably open it up to even mandates.
This was gonna be my, like, once I got past this part.
I'm just looking at how many people are gonna inherit a house from their family? I mean, we can conjecture, I don't know. So I was looking to accommodate them maybe with a 0% loan or something. That they could pay, they could put in the IA system with time, something, I don't know, but it's a payback.
Well,
It's gonna be paid back, the money's gonna be able to be used again. The WQI
Yeah,
fund.
well, I was thinking like, we have LLCs, yes, and I feel like there's a workaround here that I want to think through, and if trusts get excluded, we don't have, like, if you inherit, that it's an exception. And so because, I mean, the inheritance that happens all the time, and then the family members sell. So then it wouldn't happen at the the death of the person, but when this next generation goes to sell, then it would trigger this. So do we want to add inheritance as an exception?
Okay, I don't-
So because, I mean,
It's kind of included in the immediate family member, but it needs to be broken out and defined that
Amber,
well, but that's not,
operation
yeah,
will.
That's separate,
but
that's
that's a
grant.
seller, but that's, that's B, seller's immediate family. That's not a sale, it's an inheritance. So
Yeah.
it didn't fall under the definition in my mind.
Okay.
But you were gonna say something.
No, I know that, I think you had an issue if people inherited the house and then they weren't financially.
Right.
It really was a burden to put in an IA system, and that's all to try to make some accommodation to that situation.
And this isn't just inheritance, this is parents moved down to Florida, have the house here, and gonna give a good deal to the son or daughter.
Well, that's under B. So I'm thinking there needs to be a C for inheritance, because it's technically not a sale. It's a transfer, but it's not a sale. So it's just wording.
Yeah, I mean, I assumed it was included, and it would be.
Well, transfer captures inheritance. Transfer doesn't have to be consideration based. It could be inheritance.
Right,
The
but
word
we don't have an exclusion. Or what's the exclusion, A or B?
It would be big.
It would be B, and it would be, we'd have to work it out in the language, but I always assumed that was in there.
Okay, got it, okay, all right, okay, you're right. But we do need to define immediate family, because the only place I could find it in the code was section 105.7.
Correct. Again, I use the immediate family and I've always been a proponent of this. I know people like, why can't we have consistency in immediate family throughout the code? But you have the ability to make it as broad or as specific as possible in this particular section. So you can write it any way you want. Is it, again, nuclear family, or is it extended family, or is it?
It's 2024, you know? You can't just look at nuclear family anymore. It has to, blended families and.
No, but also like nephew, niece.
Yeah, because I'm 105.7, you could, like, uncles and aunts were included, but nieces and nephews weren't. And I like can think of somebody who like sold to a niece or a nephew, and that was a young family that was able to stay on the island because their aunt sold them the house.
There's
So-
adoption and stepchildren.
Well, that, I think 105.7, it is part of that, like steps are in there, domestic partners are in there, so I think like 105.7 has most of it, except I noticed no nieces and nephews.
It's gonna take some work to define it,
Mhm.
and I think
Yeah,
we should
but we need
focus
to.
on that, and I think we should forget about A.
Forget about LLCs and trusts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What is the temperature of the board? Do they want a more broad definition of family or limited?
More broad for me.
Same with you, Albert?
What are you saying? More broad?
Immediate family, like nuclear,
Including cousins, aunts, uncles,
Yeah, like how many
nephews, nieces.
degrees of separation.
Versus just a son or daughter.
Don't make me answer.
Okay, well,
I go with ours and then Albert can review
well,
it.
no, I got a majority, 2 out of 3 is saying more broadly.
Well, but we need 3 out of 3 on this.
Okay.
So, but draft it with ours and then
Yes.
Albert can like pick it apart, just like you're gonna incorporate with his and then I can better review it.
Because the intention is to keep families who have been here,
Mhm.
here.
Yes.
So
Keep the next generation
that
here.
means more
That depends.
broad.
Yes, exactly.
But if we open up the grants to mandates, we could still keep people here and fund those mandated installations.
That was gonna be my next.
That's the next thing.
This is
Yeah.
there's nothing in code that says that we can't fund. Yes, sir, let me just stop and think for a second.
Well, you know how I feel about this.
Yeah, the funding policy and restrictions, which I do not believe there was anything in code, but let me just take a second to review my notes here.
There isn't anything that would prohibit.
Okay, so it's only in our
Yes.
funding policy and restrictions. I thought I had, but I just,
The funding policy
you're doing so
existed
much
because
legislatively.
we
that-
had really limited funds.
Yes,
few years ago.
yes, and now we've got a nice pool, and also to make it more palatable to the public if we adopt this, to move this forward. We have in our funding policy and restrictions, in the introduction, this program is to provide financial assistance to homeowners to voluntarily replace a cesspool or conventional septic system. So it's there, and then expenses unsuitable for rebate in section C2 is an IAO, system installation mandated by town code, so we'd have to change that section. And then D2, homeowner initiated in Suffolk County Department of Health Services or town building code mandated system upgrades. Again, eligibility, when the applicant voluntarily initiates the process. And then specifically, WQI policy bars providing rebates for an IA OWTS when upgrading is mandated by Suffolk County Department of Health Services or section 43-10.4 code of the Shelter Island. So we're now incorporating this section 4 in underneath 10.4. So we just have to think about, like, do we in this section say except for? But I know at one point you were not in favor of, you're like mandated is mandated, no town rebate. I don't know if you've softened on that stance. Not to put you on the spot, Albert, but.
But remember, there's more money. There's more money in the kitty, Albert.
You know, I have a reputation of being Mr. Mandate. I mean, I'm all, people tell me I'm all over Facebook and stuff. I don't know. But I feel like we need to do something to protect the water.
Yeah, and I
We've
mean-
known this and whatever it is, we
Yeah,
need
do
to move forward.
Do we resort, revert back to an income threshold so that if, someone can afford it, like, that,
I think that's fair.
that's, like you're not
Yeah.
eligible for a town rebate. You can still go for Suffolk County and New York State, but if you meet a certain income threshold, then we would consider a grant
What the
application.
threshold is, but, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Well,
Stop reading Facebook.
so what do you think the threshold would be? Just out of curiosity.
1%ers. Which again, I don't even think is that high. What is it, 300,000?
I was thinking something more that came out of like HUD guidelines, and the Suffolk County income
Well-
threshold for.
Well, maybe we're trying to twist ourselves out of shape for no reason, because those 1%ers are probably building new houses, which they have to do it anyway, or they're
No, but what-
doing a renovation of more than 20.
No, but what-
We're
she's
doing it on
talking about, no,
So,
she's
yeah.
talking about opening up
the
the
fund.
grants to everyone, even if they are mandated, so they can apply for a grant.
I mean, we'd still have sections 1 and 2. 1, 2, and 3. Like, do we want to write it so that you're not eligible for funding if you still fall into the 1, 2, or 3?
Right,
So that if somebody, the house gets sold, they tear it down, you're in 1, you're building a new house.
Yeah,
Or-
they're only
or
really,
you're
the new
doing-
eligibility is section 4.
Yes, or if you're, the title transfer happened and your septic system upgrade, is required because you're gonna do a renovation and add a bedroom, then no money for you.
But I think an income thing would be fairer, because what if you're a struggling young family, have a baby, need to put a bedroom in, and now you have to be paying the 30,000. So if there's that income threshold,
Yeah, I mean, we took out the income, because there used to be more money allowed, but I'm saying no rebate. The threshold in this title transfer instance.
I think the financial threshold is good.
I'll go along with it.
What?
I'll go along with it.
Listen, I'm not on Facebook. People just tell me what they're saying about me on Facebook, but I'm not, I have nothing to do with social media.
You have to be a duck.
So, and the threshold, we'll talk about.
Yeah, we'll have to work on threshold, and that's not part of the legislation.
Correct.
It's part of the policies and procedures.
Yeah.
So we can bounce that back to
WQI.
WPI and say, okay, this is what we're thinking, where do you guys feel this should be?
And they're thinking about this hard right now. so-
Yeah, because we're trying to
Yeah.
get more of these in, and I feel like since we do have money, and we can always change the policy and restrictions piece, if we get 1 million of these things,
Yeah,
hundreds of these things in.
and I want to publicly commend them for being open to finding a way to get more of them in the ground,
Yes,
because they really are thinking about this and working.
yes. And so you're right.
But I
up-
think it's up for us to help them facilitate it.
And so you're right up on that path. That would be very helpful for them because then it gives them a focus for okay, we're going to attack the center. And we've talked about, a concierge service. We've had some committee clerk changes, and so we never quite got to implementing that. So this could be another way towards that instead of.
And that along with, I don't know, it's a start. I just thought the USGS is somebody that, a top flight group that knows jumps around and
Since they do a lot
and
of
to
work
speak to
there.
them. Go from there.
They do a lot of work.
If we could get a big project together,
Because we currently have contracts with them, we have water quality and water quantity testing, so.
Yeah.
I think that was everything, let me just.
The only thing I have to look into is, as far as the funding,
Mhm.
if it's a vacant lot and you're building a new house, is that new growth?
That's, yeah, that's, we've always considered that to be new growth and therefore not fundable.
So,
Where, sidebar, where do we stand with getting that CPF East End?
advisory,
Yeah, because that was a question that we wanted to take to them, to say, hey, if it's a new subdivision, we know that that is new growth and therefore not fundable. There's always been some of us on the side of vacant lot, new house, that's new growth. Others who have said that's not necessarily new growth because that was already available, and so you're not creating new growth. So that's something for that. So where does that group stand?
we're still in the IMA stage. I think, it's just, Town Attorney Burke from Southampton is working on IMA. So,
All right, good. So at least there's some progress there. So that's on my to-do list, I forgot to ask. All right, anything else on this topic? Or we'll put it on for next week yeah, I mean, we can review some legislation, but it depends on when the subcommittee's gonna be.
I would say 2
2
weeks,
weeks.
and, because I also want to see if Meg can reach out to the Board of Ethics to be a
Okay.
consultant.
All right, so push.
We have a resident septic expert on the board.
It would be 3 weeks then, because we're not gonna have a meeting on the 21st.
Okay.
Okay, so next discussion, May 20. Okay. Moving on to site plan review. Oh, I'm making come back.
Grab some water.
Just to give you a heads up while Benjamin's getting water,
Uh-huh.
we would like to put a request into the Board of Ethics
Okay.
to see whether or not, with your knowledge about IA systems, if you could be on the working group, just with your, inform the group, but you don't have any, you're not gonna
Yeah,
vote
no
on
voting rights or
anything, you're not,
anything,
you're just for informational.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. Or
Steve
even
will
if like
work
the
with you.
subcommittee came up with a list of technical questions that they need answered,
Mhm.
and then we could always answer them in a work session or something.
No,
or
I think, and it would be very beneficial.
Fair enough.
There's a lot of ideas being thrown about, and if we had you in real time, no, you're crazy, no, that makes sense.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's fine with me, ethics clears it, I have no problem with it.
You got all those ideas down there were floating around, right, Stephen?
In your brain? Your stream of consciousness? No.
I had a memo, that was just about the USGS.
Yes, yeah, but that's, yeah.
But I saw notes, Albert, you were reading from notes, so we have that down.
I have notes. I'll get them, I'll distribute them.
And has an asterisk in this.
I don't think ethics will have a problem with it. They didn't have a problem with me just relaying factual information or
Mhm.
answering questions related to process and procedure. So I think it would be okay, but we can run them by them.
Okay,
cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're moving on to site plan review. Just want to pull up something that's questions.
I gotta find one of that again.
I had a lot of notes on this.
Yeah,
It's kind of a hot mess.
yeah, and so some of the things, yeah, like, all right, so what I put down for site plan review. Is update, like what in the code needs to be updated. who do we want to take on site plan review? We don't have an application, we
Right.
don't have the fees. So there's lots going on. Stephen, I wondered if you could start us off with explaining the difference between site plan review and special permits
All right, so it's very simple. So
for you.
So, site plan is predicated on the use already being allowed. So you don't need special permit authority. It's allowed in some district where this property occurs. So all site plan does is deals with the siting of that use on the property and amelioration of harms. So that's basically what site plan is. It's basically, you take, where should we put the parking? Where should we put the lighting? Where should we put the building? And should we have screening and buffers around, and then drainage and topography and things like that? So that's all site plan. The use is already approved.
So a special permit, you're requesting a use that is not already approved.
Correct. Yes and no, like so a variance, a use variance, the use is allowed, so you ask for a use variance. An area variance, the dimensional regulation isn't permitted that you want. So like say if you, the side yard setback of 20, you want 10, you go for an area variance. Special permit basically says, you know, that use is allowable, but we want to make sure the exact location where you want to put it is okay for that use. So this is, you know, the use is absolutely allowed. And now you're at the point where, because either you got a special permit to make that use, or it's, you're in the B or B1 and that use is permitted. And then now you just want to, this is another layer of protection for the community to make sure that on that property, it's sited in a way that it won't be that harmful to surrounding neighbors or the rest of the community at large.
So theoretically, a special permit would include site plan review.
No.
No, they're two different things, but within the code.
Okay, logically.
Well, yeah, so, yeah, again, special permits generally have to do with uses, or like, should be dealing with uses. We had the issue where a special permit was an SFLA, which isn't a use issue, but it was more of a dimensional issue, so it shouldn't have been a special permit. But special permits, generally speaking, yes, have to do with uses, and those particular uses generally trigger site plan. So you're right on that. But it's apples and oranges as far as the standard of review on either.
And when
Okay.
we have site
Sounds
plan
like a problem.
review, section 109-5 says that we can do site plan review and special permit at the same time.
Consolidation.
Right, you can do things concurrently.
Yes.
And they can be in the same resolution in the end, but
Mhm,
um, they're focused on different things typically.
mhm.
Yeah, this was, you know, just because the quirkiness of Shelter Island, where the town board was hearing things that are really shouldn't have been hearing, and it says if we give you, take site plan away from planning board, then the town board can hear things at the same time. But, yeah, that's my issue. This code is extremely lacking. First and foremost, it doesn't even tell you what's required in a site plan. So when we're talking about site plan, it's just basically a survey on steroids. So it's a survey of the property and then everything that you want to construct or that's existing on the property with, like I said, parking calculations, a vegetation schedule for screening buffer, topography with where dry wells are, lighting stanchions, things like that, fencing. But I don't see anywhere in this code that it says any of that's required.
Kind of in a weird appendix that's attached to the code.
Yeah,
Where I didn't even,
I had to, like, Christina had to.
It's not easy to find. If you go to
Okay.
the code online, it's at the very top of the code in a subtle gray italic saying attachment appendix for site plan.
why?
It's 109
It's a very good
dash
question.
10 3 C1.
Okay.
So it's,
Yeah.
but, and that has like required submissions, submitted site plan to include these elements listed below, or any further information that's appropriate to the evaluation of the proposed project. And then it goes into like the legal stuff, the name and address of the owner on record, the name of the person, organization, or firm, and it goes into all that. And then it doesn't completely cover the things that the state recommends it cover, but it does kind of outline what you're looking for. But it's not, it needs to get integrated into the code itself, along with, you know, a lot of the review aspects, like.
So is it referenced in the code that
It's
refers to that?
referencing the code itself, saying, hey, look at appendix, but then it's really hard to actually find the appendix.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 10910 B3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so-
Yeah, this,
Because at first I was like, what appendix?
Right, and then I went back online and I kept looking.
Yeah, they stuck it, yeah.
Yeah, and then there's like an editor's note, because then I went to the very end of the code looking for the little one in the hole there, and it was like, not there, and then later.
And it says a site plan, see appendix. And then the applicant shall submit the site plan, and it's really basic on what they should submit.
Yeah,
But
so I'd like to see it incorporated.
yeah. And then whatever we do, we need to develop an application that
Mhm.
reflects those requirements. And,
Yeah, because the planning board, when they had site plan review, started to create an application, but it was based upon the prior code. So there was code that was modified in, I think, 2017, and then amended because it was just too cumbersome in 2021, I believe.
2021 is when this
Yes.
appendix showed up.
Yeah,
You know, make sure to send it to
I have it.
2 pages.
Yes, yeah, no, I finally got it. But anyways, I think, so,
and another thing that's like extremely disconcerting is that the building inspector has the authority to give conditional site plan approval.
yeah.
And there's a lot of discretion in the building inspector and
Even I remember in 21,
Yeah,
when we did this, there was kind of the pendulum was swung in one direction, that the planning board was being too cumbersome, making it too difficult for a person applicant to come. So there was, the pendulum went this way to kind of make it a little easier to facilitate things better. So maybe pendulum needs to come back a little bit.
yeah, and we bifurcated it, so it was like a full site plan review and a lesser site plan review.
well, yeah, it just
I didn't
seems,
even see like an administrative review really defined in here, like what would
Correct.
qualify for an administrative
Yeah.
review versus comprehensive review, so it's like,
yeah, I don't know like what the trigger was to ultimately get to the town board from the conditional.
Well, it was supposed to be submitted to us. It's like, in here somewhere, it does say.
There's like a report that needs,
The conditional review approval goes to the town board. I guess I couldn't remember the letter.
yeah.
yeah, delivery and synopsis, that language is so.
Started square one.
Yeah, because the 2021 redraft was based upon, like, it worked off of the old one, and I think just a total rewrite. And New York State does have, the Division of Local Government Services has site plan review, so there's some guidelines there. And
There's an entire packet.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lovely comprehensive packet with samples of what applications could look like, what you should list, what you should look for.
Yeah, we like,
Development criteria that should be evaluated, things like that. So I think we need to kind of go over it.
Mhm.
yeah, because in most jurisdictions, you have to go like your firstborn to get site plan.
Right.
I know that was too onerous at a certain time, but this is crazy.
Yeah.
And then also, I think there were some areas that I thought could be beefed up, like water use. Like, the only thing that we have in here is public utilities, the plans for water supply, sewage disposal, like making sure adequate, and installation of a nitrogen reducing septic system.
That's good.
yes, that part's good, but it's just a water use
Reuse is not addressed.
is like, needs to be better addressed, because if something, you know, like if something was
Yes.
bank and then it becomes a restaurant, and it's not on a public water system. Like,
When did that happen?
like, you know, like, they get adequate water, but it's in a different, like,
So, excuse me.
jeez.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, so
I can
that's
send
something
it to
that
you.
needs to be beefed up.
I'll email it to you.
So how do you want to attack this?
Okay, so I think we need a working group to start working on this. So, since I'm not part of the,
I was putting the last one.
I was gonna say, since I wasn't put in the last working group, I will volunteer, and then, yes, you said you'll be part of that if ethics says it's okay.
Yeah, but
And you've got wetlands.
she's a mere consultant.
Yes, I know, she's already in wetlands. Yeah, oh wait, let's just do this.
I can do it all.
No, hold on, let's do this, because we have,
She did read that site plan, Department of State booklet, so she's one step ahead. Yeah, she's one step ahead. But I think
okay, hold on a second. Okay, so we just did.
I do apologize for that.
No, it's fine. So IAM transfers, I'm just like our different working groups. So that is Benjamin and Albert. We also have an irrigation working group, which is who?
Well,
Irrigation, oh.
I kicked
no.
it to the WAC, so I started that, so
Okay,
my bad.
okay, so that's sort of me. So we also have the tree clearing work group, that's you.
That's not me, that's.
Me.
Yes, yeah, I'm just trying to get like, who I'm like, because I'm like, on next week's agenda, I wanted to get progress reports on this. And then we also have
Wetland Street.
Lance, yeah,
It's Albert and Ryan.
That's it.
okay.
So the new working group on the IA transfer is me and Albert, Stephen and Reed.
Yes,
Got it.
yes, yeah. So we won't put you on site plan review because you're already on 3 of these, so. I think. No.
rock, paper, scissors.
And wetlands. Albert is on
All right.
3, and so you and I.
You're in there, baby.
Yeah. Nice try, but no. Okay.
I would like the board to discuss now, because it will shape how the law is written. Which body do you want to have site plan review? Is it town board or is it planning board? Or is it some other board? But, you know, again, typically it's the planning board that does site plan.
Right,
So it would be nice to have that discussion.
and we took it away from planning board because there were conflicts, like we should have just
Handled the person.
personalities differently.
It feels like the planning.
Since
board.
resolved itself.
Yeah, I don't think we have. go
The
forward.
planning board is the most appropriate location for
And
it.
they did start off a good application.
Mhm.
And they actually hired a law firm to write a new site plan chapter. So we have that we can work from.
Oh, great.
So 90% of it's done already.
Done, sign me up.
Okay, so then I would say planning board.
Yes, I
So-
agree with that.
Now, because they're going to be, overseeing site plan review, would they be in the drafting of it?
I would say yes, they can, versus like I like ZBA to be completely out of any zoning legislation because they have to sit as the arbiter on, granting relief. They're quasi judicial versus this, which is administrative. So I think that Ian and or whoever should definitely be involved with the draft.
So we have a plan for going forward.
So I'm
Anything else
not
on-
on site plan
You
review?
are not on site plan review.
Okay.
We did that one task. All right, so that's it for that topic for today. back when we've got updates. All right, so then it would be board member reports.
So. This is. Calendar.
Yeah, I've got,
This is from last week, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
I can start because I have WQI met last week. Yeah, they just said,
You jump in with a quick,
okay,
short
yeah,
one
I
if
just
you
want to
want.
like do a little,
Deer and Tick met on May 1st. I guess that's after the session last week.
Mhm.
They started the discussion on reworking the mission statement, and serving one of our priorities as a town board. And must commend the Deer and Tick committee, because I think they're the first ones to get started on it.
yes.
So that conversation happened, and there will be more to report as we go forward. Bo had no new info to report on culling, but, as far as the recreational side towards the end of the season, but we have the numbers from before. And the numbers were a little bit down from last year, but still not dramatically down. So it was an okay season. And as we all know, now that the 4 posters are gone, the real tick prevention method is culling, and coupled with education. And that was the other part of the conversation, that they are really focusing on ramping up the education side of life on an island loaded with ticks. And it was mentioned that the kids are pretty on it and understand and are careful. It's their parents that are the problem. The archery program is in full swing. It's happening at St. James Field again. Can't read my own handwriting. And we're waiting for data on prescriptions for antibiotics, so we can get a better idea of how many people have been infected. That's still trying to be gathered. And that was it. The meeting took 23 minutes.
I can give an update. So the CPAC met on Monday, the 29th, and it was really their last meeting. There are a couple notes that we're putting together and sending off to the consultants for revisions, mostly small things. There's a few things that we're working on getting better data on. So for the fire department, for example, a better breakdown of what, like how many firefighters are certified to fight fires inside a building versus how many are only certified to fight fires outside of a building. So just kind of some more of that data. So we just have a little better understanding of what our fire force is actually able to do and kind of maybe what needs might come down the line in the future. So that's one of the things that we're looking to add in, and just a little more information on our recreation department. So those were just 2 of the things that we're going to be adding into it that we didn't quite have outlined well enough before. Otherwise, they're really minor edits. And as soon as the consultants get that document back to us, it's going to come to the town board. So the CPAC unanimously voted to move it forward to the board. And so, with that being said, I'd like to really thank the CPAC for all the time and effort and dedication they
Definitely.
put into the process. It's been a long 3 years, I think. And, they really stuck it out to the end, and we greatly appreciate that. So, they're sort of officially done. Once that document moves up to the town board, we'll do a resolution dissolving the CPAC and thanking them for all their hard work. But that's going to be the next step, is it'll come to us. for additional review.
One thing on this, and maybe I read this wrong, and tell me if you interpret it the same way, but I know it was reported in Chevron
Yes.
Reporter.
Got to reach out to
At
Amber
the end
and
of all
say,
this,
yeah.
the people of Shelter Island will vote on the comprehensive plan.
They will not. That was a misprint.
Yes.
So it will not go to public referendum for approval. That's not how it works. It's a town board decision. So it's the town board's choice and decision to initiate the whole comprehensive plan process. And so that jurisdiction stays with the board for the final approval.
And I don't think it's dissolved until the town board approves of this.
Right.
So after you approve the resolution, it dissolves and approves.
Right. So, yeah, so no,
meant to
it's
reach
not
out to
a
Nicholas.
public, yeah, it won't be a public referendum on it. It is a town board vote. It's a town board decision. Thank you for bringing that up, because I did want to comment on that and I totally spaced. And then we had the water test discussion at the library on Sunday, and it went very well. It went from 5 to about 7:30. 7:30? It went late. It
Yes.
was a good discussion. We had a lot of really great questions. The presentation will be available on the town website, on the WAC page, the Water Advisory Committee page. And it was really just a very general discussion. These were this is what we found, this is what you should look for. And it really just encouraged everyone to get their water tested and to speak to a professional if they think that they need filtration in their home for their water. That was really the main goal, was to just raise awareness, get people to test their water and to talk to professionals when they have questions about their water quality. So I think it went well. It was well attended. And then there was the
30
housing.
there.
Yeah, there was about 30 people.
Mhm.
And then there was the housing open house, which I'll let Amber talk about because I'm not a liaison for that thing.
That was well attended. It took place between 1 and 3 on Sunday, and people were cycling through for the entire 2 hours, which was nice. Lots of good feedback, which will be reported on in, it's today, Tuesday, so Thursday's Community Housing Board meeting, they're going to discuss. I think Maria Magenti was in the process of collating all of the feedback. There were some written comments as well as she was taking notes throughout and talking to different people. But that presentation as well will be put up on the town website. You can look through the various slides. So that was good. And then for WQI last week, I started pulling together a few statistics just for each meeting. The number of grant IA systems that are unpaid currently are 32. There has been 60 grants paid out for a total of just like $599,000 in grants paid out since inception. There is available for future projects almost $2.5 million in funds. So we could put in 127 systems. I mean, there's other expenses like PEP and a few other requests that come through, but so we do have money to get out. It's just we're not getting the numbers. I think so far this year we have encumbered 4 rebates so far. So we need more volunteers to come forward. They also talked about.
I was just to say, the trend I've noticed is that people apply to the county and state first and get their approvals before they end up applying to the town, which I think delays their application to the town. Because at that point, once they apply to the county and state, then they also get the engineer to do the design. And they wait until they get that before they come to the town, because otherwise they have to get a letter saying they're going to use this engineer, and then they have to try to make up a survey themselves, and they don't know what they're doing.
Yep.
So I find most people kind of go through more of the process. So you really get the more serious applicants coming to you. It's just what
Yes.
I've noticed.
Or the ones that are emergency installations.
Yes.
Which then get expedited for the county fund.
Right.
But yeah, they are talking about various ways, the committee is talking about various ways to increase IA installations, provide more grant money available. They are talking about doing 0% financing that would be repaid through the town tax rolls. So, and maybe supplementing depending on what happens with the county and the funding source, like maybe we need to increase ours to cover those. So those are some of the things, and I know one of the members is going to talk to the tax assessors to see how could we do 0% financing that would get repaid through the loan, through the tax rolls. They also were glad to hear that we're working on mandating additional IA systems. Another thing that I was working on this week that's not committee related is I did meet with both doctors at the medical center. The leases are up at the end of this year. They have to give us notice by October 1st if they want to renew, but with comprehensive plan chapter by chapter coming down the pike and then rolling into budget season, I wanted to start the process early, especially with Stony Brook Southampton, because there is more bureaucracy for them to get through this, the stages. But I had a good meeting with both doctors, so we're proceeding with that. And when I have draft leases, that will be an executive session item to go through, just make sure, but I'll keep you posted on that. But I just wanted to.
Good.
Sounds good. Okay.
Do we report on ETIP here? Or-
We can, yeah,
No,
yeah.
feel free.
Oh. It's, yeah, the ETIP meeting is continuing on. It's a slow process at this point. We're just getting NREL more involved. The scope of work has been defined and signed off on. So what we're doing now is coordinating with NREL, which is the National Renewable Energy Laboratory, to run some REOP studies, which is essentially an analysis of how beneficial would solar be on this building? You know, what are the cost benefit analysis of applying solar to a structure? And, you know, an analysis of the space available and how much it would cost, and it kind of gives us a full picture. So we met with them for the first time on Wednesday, and they're going to give us a list of all the information they need on each site that we've outlined. So a lot of the sites that we're looking at are, you know, like the police station, the top of the school roof.
There are 12 sites or something?
There's something like 12 sites.
Community center?
The community center, the,
IGA,
Um,
or we take that
no, we
off?
took that off, we took that off, yeah. The recycling center, all the roofs down in the highway area, you know, the salt barn, the building over the recycling, the capped landfill itself, you know, what's feasible on the landfill. There's a couple complications with that. You can't pierce the cap. And then it also has a pretty significant slope. It's like an 18-degree slope. Typically they stick around 15 degrees. So you know, there'll be variables, but they'll analyze all of that for us and give us a pretty good picture of what is feasible and what will be cost effective and what will be worth our while. And after they run the initial study, then we can pick 2 or 3 sites that we want an in-depth review of. And then they'll dive even deeper and really kind of give us some parameters on what it would take to get the installations going. And it'll essentially like tee us up for grant monies and for the applications to fund some of these larger projects. So they're looking at that. And then what else do we talk about? Oh, there was also a portion discussing agrivoltaics and you know, combining farming with solar and how feasible that is. And so those are some of the things that they're going to give us information on. At the end of this, they'll also have kind of like a community handbook of different things homeowners can do to be more energy efficient and to promote clean energy in their homes, and different grant programs, different funding sources, all that kind of thing. So it's an ongoing process. It'll be about another 12 months until it's all wrapped up. So slow but steady progress. So that's what we're working on at the moment. So right now, our job is to collect data and information on all these different buildings that we want them to look at. And some of it's like getting the power bills so that they can see the breakdown in kilowatt hours and things like that, along with just like square footage of roof area, and it'll be fun. So that's what we're working on. And the green options and ETIP.
If that is everything, then we will close this meeting and go into executive session to discuss special meeting.
Oh, we have a
Oh,
special.
special meeting. Oh, thank you. I totally forgot that. Turn the page.
Good job, yeah.
Sheet's fired. Okay, so there's a sheet for us to sign. All right, so we have actually 3 resolutions. Since we're going into a special meeting, there were 2 program contracts that need to be signed. So they weren't ready as of yesterday morning, but tidied up yesterday, so.
Okay.
Want to go first?
Sure. Whereas Natasha Krolenko of BAM Productions, Inc., 27-28 Thompson Avenue, Long Island City, New York, 11101, has requested a filming permit for Monday, May 13th and Tuesday, May 14th, 2024, at 52 Peconic Avenue, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. And whereas the filming crew consists of 30 persons, 1 motorhome, 2 16-foot cube trucks, 2 Sprinter vans, and 3 personal vehicles. And whereas the required documents and fees have been submitted, and whereas said application has been reviewed by the Highway Department and advised there must not be any obstruction to the roadways or walkways during the filming, and all garbage must be picked up in the area. Now therefore be it resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to issue the aforementioned filming permit. So moved.
Second, all in favor? Motion carried. Be resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute the contract between the town of Shelter Island and Suffolk County for the AAA transport program for a term January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Motion carried.
Be it resolved that the supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to execute the contract between the town of Shelter Island and Suffolk County for the residential repair program for the term of January 1, 2024 through December 31, 2024. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, we will now close the special meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And now we will go into executive session to discuss pending litigation. Thank you, everybody.
We need the water.
Motion.
He's gonna go.
It would be helpful to have a lawyer.